What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So, I told you before that once I got information about the Minnesota attacks that happened Saturday, that I would do a video going over all of it. And so today I have a article from the Washington Post that lays out like everything that we know at this time, and it's a pretty in-depth article. So I'm gonna go over it. I'm gonna try to summarize it as much as I possibly can, and then uh, and just have a discussion, my thoughts about it. So thank you very much for joining me here. If you're new here, thank you very much. Welcome. Everything's on the screen. You can check out how you want, when you want. And if you're returning, you're freaking amazing. Welcome back. Um, yeah. So whereas this is YouTube, you know what to do. Do the damn thing, and let's get talking. So here we are. This is from the Washington Post. He's right here. How the Minnesota attacks and manhunt unfolded. What you basically have here from the beginning is this is first talks about the lady who actually spotted the suspect, which is Vance Bolter. Her name was Wendy Thomas. She was a neighbor in the area where they all lived in Green Isle, Minnesota. I mean, she knew the guy. She had, invited him to like cookouts and things like this is a pretty, I think, kind of pretty much like a small community area for the most part. I think it seems like most people know each other to some degree or another. Some whole, kind of rural kind of idea area. Um, she happened. She had heard about the manhunt. She had been warned by friends and stuff. Hey, your neighbor is the one that they're looking for. And she was out and had just happened to be, passing by, looked to the side, saw a man that, looked like they were covered in mud, wearing all black. And it appeared that he saw that she spotted him. He ducked down into some like tall grass or whatever. They happened to be like some police officers passing by at about the same time or relatively close within that area. They flagged him down, told him, hey, I just saw a guy over here. All the manpower moved that way, grabbed him. But what I wanted to center on was also they get into how this all unfolded to begin with. So it began, it says here, the stuff of nightmares. It began with a knock at about 2 a.m. on Saturday in Chaplin, where about 20 minutes northwest of Minneapolis, a man claimed to be a police officer says he was responding to reports of a shooting at the Hoffman's home, according to court records. But the Hoffmans soon realized something was amiss. When the man lowered the flashlight he had shone in their eyes, Yvette Hoffman realized he was wearing a flesh-covered mask. Records state the couple confronted him, and John Hoffman, the husband, tried to push him out the door. The complaint states the man in the mask opened fire. The Hoffmans were each shot multiple times, authorities said, but survived the attack. Their daughter called 911 to report the shooting. The same crime. The man said he was there to investigate. So, what I had originally, I was originally wrong or misunderstood who had died. I thought in the initial reports, and maybe it was a mistake in the initial reports, I don't know, but I was under the understanding that two lawmakers were both shot and killed by the suspect. What actually it was is that they were both shot. Both of their spouses were shot as well. One lawmaker and his spouse, or her spouse, I don't know which one's the lawmaker. Anyways, were shot but did survive. The other, though, and the spouse did not. So there were two people killed. It just wasn't, both of the two killed were not both lawmakers. So that's where I want to straight up try to correct what I said previously. So yes, 2 people did die, and 2 locker makers did get shot. One died, one didn't. It was the spouse that died along with the one that did. So, okay, now continue on. Over the next 90 minutes, the gunman. This is the part that did not initially get reported because it took an investigation um, for us to get this information. Over the next 90 minutes, the gunman who had fled the first house went to at least 3 more Minnesota lawmakers' homes, authorities said. 18 minutes after the Hoffman's daughter called 911, he arrived outside the door of another lawmaker in nearby Maple Grove, another Minneapolis suburb about 15 minutes south of the Hoffman's home. As he rang the doorbell, he was again wearing the mask and claimed to be a police officer. The lawmaker and her family weren't home. The man eventually left. The representative, Kristen Bonner, said in a statement Wednesday that it was her home and that divine intervention had kept her and her family safe. About 12 minutes later, a police officer was dispatched to a home of a third lawmaker in nearby New Hope for a wellness check after the shooting at the Hoffman's house. The officer reported seeing a bald man in a black SUV with police-style lights outside the home, which she believed had been sent there to protect the lawmaker. Court records state the officer tried to speak to the man in the vehicle, but he didn't respond. The officer drove up to the lawmaker's home and waited for backup. By the time other officers arrived, the man in the SUV had driven away. So that, even you would have thought that the officer, when, the one didn't respond, probably would have thought that was a little weird, but nevertheless. State Senator Ann Rest later said the man was parked near her home. She credited the law enforcement's quick actions, which she said in the statement saved my life. So he basically got scared off from the third home. He showed up to the second, didn't get an answer, left, was waiting at the third one to maybe make a move or something, but got startled or, whatever from the officer arriving and, eventually left. Nearly an hour later, at about 3:30 a.m., police arrived at Hortman's home in Brooklyn Park for a safety check. The black SUV with the police lights and a fake license plate that said police was there, and a man wearing dark clothes was standing outside the house, court records state. Moments later, Bolter fired several gunshots into the house as he moved forward, entering the Hortman's home. As police moved in, officers saw him shoot Mark Hortman, who was standing in the door, according to the state charging document. Then Bolter exchanged gunfire with the officers before rushing into the house, where he shot Melissa Hortman and the couple's dog. The Hortmans were both killed in the attack. The dog, a golden retriever named Gilbert, that Melissa Hortman had tried to train as a service dog to become a service dog, later had to be put down. So apparently he sustained injuries that more or less wasn't going to survive from. Bolter fled through the back door, leaving behind his SUV, guns registered in his name, notebooks detailing his plans, and a GPS device with the addresses of lawmakers, according to court records. The suspect's disappearance led to a shelter-in-place in Brooklyn Park, where officers spent hours going door to door looking for him. While the events began unfolding early Saturday, officials said preparations for the violent rampage might have started at least 5 days earlier, when they allege Bolter bought materials at a Fleet Farm store to make the fake license plate used to disguise his SUV as a police office vehicle. He also stalked his victims, according to officials, by collecting addresses and information about the families and houses, some of which were written in the notebook found in the vehicle. Almost all of those listed are Democrats. It is no exaggeration to say that his crime are the stuff of nightmares. Joseph H. Thompson, acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Minnesota. Bolter stalked his victims like prey. As police searched the area near the Hortman's home, they found a 9mm handgun they said Bolter had purchased in 2000 and the face mask and tactical vest that they said he was wearing during the attacks. Surveillance footage also showed him returning to a rental house where he sometimes lived with two roommates. The Brooklyn Park Police Chief Mark Bruley said they were trying to account for Bolter's movements between the time officers saw him fleeing the Hortman's home and when he appeared at the rental house about 8 miles away. 8 miles away hours later. That's a weird way to put that. Bolter allegedly sent text messages to his roommates Saturday morning. David Carlson said one of the roommates later read the messages to reporters. I made some choices, and you guys don't know anything about this, but I am going to be gone for a while. Maybe dead shortly, so I just want to let you know I love you guys both, and I wish it hadn't gone this way. At 6:18 a.m., Bolter also texted his wife and other family members, according to court records. He wrote, "Dad went to war last night." In a separate text to his wife, he allegedly wrote, "Words are not going to explain how sorry I am for this situation. There's going to be some people coming to the house armed and trigger happy, and I don't want you guys around." Then at 7 a.m., Bolter met a stranger at a bus stop to purchase their electric bike, and then also asked about offered to buy the man's Buick sedan. As the search for the gunman continued, Senator Erin May Quaid awoke in her Apple Valley home in a slew of missed texts and calls. She barely awoke when the phone rang. Her friend telling her about the news. Hortman had been killed. Hoffman, one of the best friends, had been badly injured. The shooter was on the loose. She talks about how she grabbed her 3-year-old daughter, hid in a closet. It was literally sitting on the floor in my closet holding my baby, and I looked at my wife and I said, "How did I not have a plan for this?" That's something that, you think lawmakers, but these are local lawmakers too. You think, this is something you just don't expect that somebody would, actively, for whatever reason, come after you or colleagues of yours, either way, because of whatever political differences or I don't know, whatever the case. It's just something you don't think. I mean, I'm sure you just don't think, like that could happen. Thomas, the neighbor, the one that found or pointed out where he was, said him in Minneapolis on Saturday morning, helping a friend work her booth at a farmer's market when her phone went off and blew up with text messages. The texts were followed by a phone call by neighbors in Green Owl who were shouting, "It's your neighbor, it's Vance." What are you talking about? Is Vance? He's the suspect. Sometime Saturday morning, officials located Bolter's wife in Onamia, a small town about 90 miles north of Minneapolis. She had 2 handguns, about $10,000 in cash and passports for herself and her children. She was going. Headed over the border, maybe. By Saturday afternoon, a massive contingency of law enforcement agencies had joined in the search for Bolter, including the local police, FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Farms, and Explosives, and the marshals. Thomas learned through her neighbor phone tree that the law enforcement were descending on Green Owl, shutting down the roads closest to the Bolter home, and even including the one that went to her house. Like I said, then on Saturday, the law enforcement were back in force in a small town about 500. Earlier that morning, investigators reportedly received a report that they saw someone riding an e-bike about 2 miles northeast of Bolter's home. Officials unable to locate anybody. Then they found the Buick abandoned near the same area. In the car, they found a handwritten letter to the FBI from Dr. Vance Luther Bolter, that said he was the shooter at large in Minnesota involved in the two shootings. He was captured at 9 p.m., sorry, after Thomas alerted the officer that she had seen a man hiding in the grass. She considered the irony that she was spotting him from her Chevy and as law enforcement officers with military-style equipment had flooded the area. And then stated that her and neighbors, after the fact, thought about the wife and the children, and they put no trespassing signs around the property to try to make sure nobody was going to, as much as no trespassing signs may deter people from, messing with the house or whatever. But yeah, so that is the full details that we know to date of what happened with the shooter in Minneapolis. So it was something that, because the way initial reports come out is I was thinking it was something that was regarding like, it had to deal in the same time frame of like the protests going on. Or what, like I didn't know what like always. This clearly had nothing to do with anything like that. Had nothing to do with any of the events. It just coincidentally, this man had been working on this for at least a number of days. Had a list of people that he planned to target for whatever reason. That's the one thing that's not really clear, I don't think yet, is like the motive. But maybe at some point we will get that figured out. But right now, all we have is like the details of the situation. It's unfortunate anybody feels the need to take matters, or they feel that they must take matters like take action towards individuals. I mean, to take somebody's life over some political, like, I mean, like I said, I don't know the motives. I don't know what this guy considered. I mean, in a whole list of it, it was a whole, like, it wasn't just something that the individuals did themselves. It was like the collective ideology that this whole collective, this is a part of a group of people that I don't agree with because, A, B, C, whatever, or, they signed off on this policy or that policy or whatever the case, or, something that you don't agree with. And to think that taking their life is the answer. Knowing full well that there's a good chance that you yourself might not even walk away from it alive yourself, or at the very least going to be arrested and be behind bars. I mean, it's unfortunate. And it's, as much as I have disdain even to some degree for some politicians or leadership, whether they be local, federal, whatever the case, violence is never the answer. Taking one's life is certainly not the answer. If you have a problem about it, it's the reason why we have freedom of speech. You can speak about it. You can talk about it. You can argue with people about it. Or you can take steps by doing something like this channel, which all I'm doing is talking about it myself. But then, or run for an office, a local office or something, or whatever the case, or, try to actually make changes yourself in policy, push for policies or whatever the case, or you can vote them out. try to bolster support to vote them out. I mean, there's much more reasonable ways of handling um, members of politicians or whatever that you don't like or that you don't agree with. Taking over their life isn't going to solve anything. Just because you take their life doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything's going to be great and gravy, and that the ones that might take their place are going to be on your side or would think the way you think. I mean, there's just, it doesn't do you any good. And at the risk of you dying yourself or then, having to live your life behind bars, or at least a portion of it, just unfortunate. So please, no matter how much you might not like, any politician, local, federal, whatever the case, or even doesn't have to be a politician, anybody, family member, whatever. Violence is not the answer in any, Sometimes violence is forced upon you as an answer in maybe a defense mechanism. That you never want that to happen either, but just to just decidedly be violent towards somebody, take somebody's life, is never the answer, in my opinion. So try your best to find other means, non-violent means, even if it comes to protesting, things like that. I mean, I've said that same thing. There's no reason for the riots. There's no reason for any kind of aggression. There's no, there are always better ways about handling things. And as unfortunate it is in this instance that there were two individuals that lost their lives, it sounds like it could have been a lot more. And just so happened that happenstance, that he was, he didn't get the chance to create or cause in more damage than he did. So yeah. If anything else of any great significance, like maybe motive or something comes out, then I will update on that, or something if you want. But let me know in the comments what you think, or if there's something that you do know, something that I haven't heard yet. Maybe you're from the area or whatever, or is something in this not correct? You've heard something different. I mean, that's possible too. So let me know in the comments, and till next time, peace. ClearTalk, I'm out.